If you want to grow your biceps, you have to do these exercises. Man, don't be like that guy. If you see anyone telling you to do these crazy exercises, don't believe them. Just stick to the right ones. So picture this. I'm in my room, alone, doing one of these follow-along workouts on YouTube. They got me doing all these crazy exercises that you don't really need. And I'm really struggling, I'm putting in the work, but I'm not seeing any growth. That's when I first got into lifting, and I had no idea. I didn't know anything about it. And I just went from one stupid program to the next one. No idea what I was doing all kinds of unnecessary exercises, and actually hurting myself in the process. You know, they say, smart men learn from their mistakes, really smart men learn from the mistakes from others. And so you can just, learn from my mistakes. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about these overrated exercises and why you shouldn't do them. And it's gonna save you a lot of time and effort. So we're gonna start off with the most stupid one that I actually believed at the time was true, and that a lot of people believe is true. You can do push-ups for the biceps. Do push-ups to grow your biceps. Now that's just ridiculous. They tell you just turn in your hands and then push up and you're gonna work your biceps. And you might feel your biceps a little bit because they're working eccentrically, but honestly, this does nothing for your biceps development. So now that we get the most obvious one out of the way, I'm gonna move on to alternating curls. Now, this is like one of the most common things I see with even very advanced people in the gym. They always do their curls alternating. And it makes sense because you might have a little bit more stability doing that way, just one side and then the other side. But you have to think about, when you do the one side, the other side is resting, is hanging down by your side. And you don't want your muscle resting in between sets, now do you? You wouldn't do your chest like this, you wouldn't do triceps like this, you wouldn't do any other muscle like this. But because it feels cool to stand in front of the mirror, take some big weights and just do that, you're doing it. You have to think about, is this really the hardest way I can train? And it's not, honestly. So you need to stop doing your curls alternating. If you want to do them unilaterally, just do one side completely and then do the other side completely, or just do them at the same time straight away. Then for some triceps work, there's the overhead tricep dumbbell extension. Now this is just, even if you only have access to dumbbells, this is still a stupid exercise. If you're gonna do any dumbbell overhead tricep work, you should do them with like both dumbbells and like with each arm separately, because it limits your range of motion so much, you don't really get a full contraction. It's really hard to set up. I really don't get why you should do this exercise. Yeah, you can grab like a big dumbbell and do a lot of weight, but that's not worth it. A lot of these exercises involve a lot of ego lifting, and I just don't think that's worth it. Another exercise that people also do for triceps is dumbbell kickbacks. Now, if you were doing this with a cable, this would make a lot of sense, because the position that you have your arm in and the motion you're doing is actually what the tricep is doing. But when you have the dumbbell and you lean forward and you do this, the peak tension occurs in the shortened position, where the muscle is the weakest. So you're gonna end up doing like this exercise with 3 kilo dumbbells, and you can't really move any weight. Any bicep curls that involves you rotating your arms out to the side or inwards. Now this doesn't make any difference to what you're training on the biceps. The only thing that influences which part of the biceps, right? Biceps, there are only 2 parts of the biceps. The only thing that influences this is whether you have your arm in front of you or behind you. That's it. So anybody who tells you need to be doing these outward rotated, inward rotated, fucking bullshit. Don't do it. Waste of time, you look silly. Now another exercise that I think is really overrated is the waiter curl. And this is one that Athlete X always used to show in his videos. And this is really when I realized that he was talking a bunch of crap. Now, he says that you can target the bicep better and eliminate the forearms from the movement if you have your hands open. And sure, your forearms don't contract as much when you have your hands open, but they only have a stabilizing role in the movement. Your forearms don't have any any involvement in flexing the arm and curling the arm. None. So your biceps doesn't attach at your fingers. If you have your hands open or closed, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter to the bicep at all. So just do your bicep curls with normal closed hands. Don't do this weird one dumbbell bullshit. Yeah, you can pick up like a 40-pound dumbbell and do biceps curls with that, but again, ego lifting. Now we arrived at some exercises that are a little bit more effective, but I think they're just really overrated in the sense that people think they are the most optimal, best exercises, when in reality there are better ones. Now the first one is the incline bench curls. Now this is one that I used to do a lot as well, and it surely isn't a bad exercise, but what you have to understand is that the bicep, unlike other muscles, doesn't benefit from stretch-mediated hypertrophy. So training the muscle in a very stretched range and emphasizing that range doesn't do any benefit, unlike the chest or the lats or whatever, for example. So doing this exercise really only fatigues you more than it makes you grow. And I really think that you are better advised doing normal dumbbell curls, doing preacher curls, doing this with a cable. Doing it on an incline bench really isn't that great. There are better options. Another one is skull crushers. Now skull crushers surely a good option, especially when you're limited in your equipment. Maybe you don't only have like dumbbells and barbells and you can't really go to a gym with cables. This can be a good inclusion, but if you have the access to a Smith machine, for example, then I would really suggest doing the JM press instead. This does a much better job at targeting the lateral and medial head of the tricep, much more stable exercise, much less elbow pain as I have experienced it. If you can swap this out for the Smith machine JM press, I would definitely do that. And lastly, we have the katana extension. Now doing any overhead tricep work, in my opinion, is really unnecessary. There used to be the belief that doing this would target the long head of the triceps more, but this has been refuted lately. So doing any long head work for the triceps that's beside your body, behind your body, is much more better. You have much more stability, much less elbow pain, in my opinion. Just, it's much easier to set up, much easier to load. I would just leave this. Looks cool, but doesn't really get you anywhere. I mean, it sounds cool as well, like katana extensions, but just because the exercise sounds cool and looks cool doesn't make it good. So that's it for today. Those are the exercises you, in my opinion, shouldn't be doing. They're overrated. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, like the video, subscribe please, and that's it.